Nobody in the village ever questioned why old Mama Adaku guarded the boy like her own shadow, because nobody knew that buried beneath her silence was a secret powerful enough to shake an entire kingdom. Chima was a 22-year-old farmer, tall, handsome, built like a prized fighter, with beautiful but distinct features, ascribed only for royalty, but nurtured is in lack. Every morning before sunrise, he carried his hoe across dusty footpaths, worked beneath the scorching African sun, and returned home with little more than enough food to survive another day. He had no father, no mother, or close relatives. The old woman found him by the stream abandoned years ago, or so everyone believed. He was just a baby. Whenever curious villagers asked where the child came from, she always gave the same answer: some secrets belong to God. Over the years, the mystery became part of the village folklore. Children whispered stories. Some claimed Chima was cursed. Others believed he had been abandoned by traveling traders. But Mama Adaku never spoke, not even to Chima himself. Yet every year, on the boy's birthday, she performed a strange ritual. She would lock the doors, light a single candle, and stare at a faded piece of cloth hidden inside an old wooden box, crying. The first time Chima saw her doing it, he was 12. The sight haunted him for years. Why the tears on his birthday? Why open the box? And why did she sometimes call him my prince when she thought he was asleep? These questions followed him into adulthood without answers. One evening, as the village prepared for the annual harvest festival, everything changed. A convoy of royal horsemen arrived from the distant kingdom of Obingwa. Dust swirled through the streets. Children ran after the horses, singing and cheering. Women peered from doorways. The kingdom had been without a king for nearly 2 decades. The last ruler had died suddenly, leaving no known heir. Now the royal council was searching once again. According to ancient tradition, signs had appeared that the true heir might still be alive. The announcement spread through the village like wildfire. Most people laughed. The missing prince had vanished 22 years ago. Surely he was dead. Yet Mama Adaku did not laugh. The moment she heard the news, terror flooded her face. That night she barely slept. Her hands trembled. Her breathing grew shallow. And for the first time in decades, she unlocked the old wooden box. Inside lay a royal cloth embroidered with a golden lion. Beside it rested a tiny bronze bracelet, sized for an infant. Mama Adaku stared at them. Then she looked toward the sleeping Chima. Tears rolled down her cheeks. "The time has come," she whispered. Outside, thunder rumbled, as if the heavens themselves were listening. The next morning, royal messengers began questioning villagers, one after another, house by house, searching for clues, searching for the lost prince. When they reached Mama Adaku's hut, her heart nearly stopped. The lead messenger asked politely, "Have you ever seen or noticed anything unusual concerning this village in the last couple of years?" She hesitated. For a long moment, silence filled the room. Then she shook her head. "No." The messenger nodded and left. But Chima noticed something. Mama Adaku's hands were shaking uncontrollably. That night he confronted her. "Who am I?" The question struck like lightning. The old woman froze. For years she had dreaded this moment. For years she had rehearsed 1,000 answers. Yet now, standing before him, she could not speak. "Tell me the truth," Chima demanded. "Am I really your grandson?" Tears welled in her eyes. Still she remained silent. That silence hurt more than any lie could. It sealed his fears. For the first time in his life, Chima stormed out. The old woman watched as he disappeared into the darkness. A terrible feeling settled in her chest. She feared she might never see him again. The next day, destiny arrived. The royal council gathered villagers in the town square. An elderly palace historian stepped forward. His voice echoed across the crowd. "Listen, the rightful heir carries a mark." Murmurs spread instantly. "A scar," the historian continued. "When the prince was born, a crescent-shaped birthmark covered his left shoulder. The royal healer predicted it would become a scar-like mark as he grew." The crowd buzzed with excitement. Many young men stepped forward, hoping to claim the throne. One after another they were examined. None possessed the mark. Then someone pointed at Chima. Chima laughed. "This is ridiculous." But the villagers insisted. Reluctantly, he removed his shirt. The square stood still. Quiet. Even the birds stopped singing. The wind seemed to disappear. There, on his left shoulder, stood a crescent-shaped scar, exactly as described. The historian staggered backward. The council members stared in disbelief. And at the edge of the crowd, Mama Adaku collapsed to her knees. The secret she had carried for 22 years was finally exposed. That evening she told the truth. 20 years ago, a group of renegade royal assassins had murdered members of the king's family in order to seize power. When they came for the infant prince, a loyal palace servant fought fearlessly and escaped with the child injured. He met Mama Adamu as he lay dying by the stream that stands as boundary between the village of Obingwa and Mama Adaku's village. He begged her to take care of the child. She reluctantly agreed, knowing the implications, Cometish, if the assassins ever found out. So she buried the prince's identity, raised him as a farmer, and waited, years on years, waiting for the day fate would call him home. The kingdom erupted with celebration. The lost prince had returned. The rightful heir had been found. Yet Chima's first act surprised everyone. Instead of claiming the throne immediately, he walked back to the small mud house where Mama Adaku lived. The woman who had sacrificed everything. The woman who had chosen love over safety. He knelt before her. Tears filled his eyes. "You are my mother, and will always be my mother." The old woman broke down crying. For 22 years she had feared losing him. Now she finally understood that though blood creates life, but sacrifice creates a family. Months later, Chima was crowned king. The entire kingdom gathered to witness history. As the royal crown touched his head, he searched the crowd. And there she was, Mama Adaku, smiling through tears. The young farmer had become king. The lost prince had come home, and the woman who guarded a royal secret for decades finally laid down the burden she had carried alone. Because sometimes the greatest kings are not raised in palaces, but are raised in tiny huts by people brave enough to protect the truth pending when the world is ready to hear it. If you did enjoy this thrilling and exciting African folktales, subscribe to Deadend Stories.